How'd you like to listen to .NET Rocks with no ads? Easy. Become a patron. For just $5 a month, you get access to a private RSS feed where all the shows have no ads. $20 a month will get you that and a special .NET Rocks patron mug. Sign up now at patreon.netrocks.com.
Hey, Carl and Richard here with your 2024 NDC schedule.
We'll be at as many NDC conferences as possible this year, and you should consider attending no matter what.
NDC Oslo is happening June 10th through the 14th. Get your tickets at ndcoslo.com.
The Copenhagen Developers Festival happens August 26th through the 30th. Early bird discount ends April 26th. Tickets at cphdevfest.com.
NDC Porto is happening October 14th through the 18th. The early bird discount ends June 14th. Tickets at ndcporto.com.
We'll see you there. We hope. Hey, guess what? It's .NET Rocks. I'm Carl Franklin.
And I'm Richard Kemp.
Richard, where are you in the world now?
I am in Las Vegas, where I'm at the Microsoft Fabric Conference. This is their new data analytics stack. And so we're putting on a show with me and 4,000 of my closest friends.
You know what's crazy is that Kelly has a friend who we don't know what she does, but we know she's in IT. And she said she was going to Vegas this week to go to some fabric conference, and I had no idea what it was. So now I know.
She's hanging out with me.
She might be. We'll talk afterwards. You can hook up with her. Not, you know what I mean. I'm not saying hook up.
Don't be like that.
I'm just saying maybe meet for coffee or tea because you're a Brit. I know.
But you know we're going to be back here in May for Dev Intersection.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
You're signed up for that one. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm going to be doing a Blazor workshop, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's called Carl Franklin's Blazor Workshop. No,
I believe it is. So therefore, I'm the only one that can teach it.
Yeah. Guess it's your workshop.
That'll be devintersection.com.
Yeah. Hope we'll see you there.
Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited by law. Okay.
Order now. Get a free set of Ginsu knives.
See, it's 5:00 here. I have wine. Michelle is in Australia. It's 8:00 in the morning. She just had brekkie.
8:00 in the morning tomorrow. She's in the future.
Yeah, I'm in the future. Yeah, it's great. Love being in the future. I wasn't going to have a bowl of cereal, but then I sat here and I was starving. So I was like, I better eat, otherwise I'm not going to last through your podcast.
You're not going to make it. We make a long show. We need you sharp.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, our hardcore listeners know that whenever we do shows later in the day, like now, that we tend to get a little punchy. So like, you know, I've got a glass of wine. And,
well, normally Michelle's such a serious person, so right. I don't know how this is going to work.
I'm not that serious.
All right, well, let's get on with Better Know Framework.
All right, dude, what do you got?
I got something that's interesting and a little scary.
I like it.
So this is a paper that came out from Microsoft on March 13th. This being show 1892, you can go to 1892.pwop.me. It's a Microsoft paper entitled AutoDev, Automated AI-Driven Development. And I'll just take the most interesting and succinct paragraph from it. We present AutoDev, a fully automated AI-driven software development framework designed for autonomous planning and execution of intricate software engineering tasks. AutoDev enables users to define complex software engineering objectives, which are assigned to AutoDev's autonomous AI agents to achieve. These AI agents can perform diverse operations on a code base, including file editing, retrieval, build processes, execution, testing, and Git operations. They also have access to files, compiler output, build and testing logs, static analysis tools, and more. This enables the AI agents to execute tasks in a fully automated manner with a comprehensive understanding of the contextual information required. You know, Richard, anytime I hear AI and fully automated in a sentence or a paragraph, I get the willies.
Well, it's just your crap detector going off, going Fully what? Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fully automated kind of means that it has, it has unfettered access to things. It's building software, right?
Well, maybe it will, maybe it won't. I think a person wrote that line and hasn't made it true at all. It's a paper, not a product.
Yeah, but eventually this is going to happen, right? I mean, the whole idea is that software developers may, in fact, in the not so near distant future, become more supervisors than developers.
Well, one would argue they already are. They mostly supervise the utilization of libraries and glue them together.
Boy, you're just a curmudgeon, aren't you? You're like the AI curmudgeon. Get off my lawn. It'll never work.
I'm just more of a, hey, you know what? I've seen this play a bunch of times. Someone still has to do requirements gathering. Someone still has to describe the problem space. Someone still has to validate it. The code writing was the simplest part.
Yeah. Oh, did I mention this? It only writes Python.
Lovely. Well, that means it's all C under the hood anyway. So there we are.
Yeah. No offense to our Python programming listeners, because Python is probably the most popular language in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome.
Yeah. What is the first? JavaScript. You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say JSON and I was going to be sad.
Because it's not a language. It's a format. Yeah.
Shh, don't say.
Hey, shh. Well, anyway, that is what I have. It's certainly, we're certainly creeping to this. And I remember having this conversation with you on .NET Rocks in the 2000s, Richard.
Yep.
And do you remember, I got to look up what show it was, and maybe an alert listener can remind us. But I said, there's going to come a day where a business person can walk up to a machine and have a conversation with it, either typing or English or other language, and tell it what the requirements are, and it would spit out a fully ready to go, qualified application. And you said that will never happen.
Yep. And it still hasn't.
Still hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
It still hasn't happened yet.
No.
But
but we've seen papers like this before. It's actually making it happen something else entirely. And I would point you at Copilot and Power Platform.
Yeah.
Although you'll find the average business person cannot describe a business process adequately to explain it to another human, much less to a piece of software.
Well, there is that problem. Yes. Yeah.
Actually breaking down workflows is hard. It takes skill and it takes time.
It does. And it also takes some kind of thing that we don't think machines have yet. Software.
Machines don't have anything. It's just software.
Yeah, programs, I guess.
All
right. Well, enough of the philosophical BS. Let's hear who's talking to us today, Richard.
Grabbed a comment off show 1814, the one we did with one Michelle Mannering, back when she was still Michelle Mannering, at NDC Oslo. We did it in person, talking about this product called GitHub Copilot. It's the thing that's going to replace all developers, as I recall.
Absolutely.
Not what I said, but okay.
And Tronjan said, I've been kind of slow with GitHub Copilot. Admittedly, this is now a year ago. But I started last week. This week I got repaid in full. I cannot understand why I hadn't tried this earlier. The suggestions from Visual Studio, good, but this is brilliant. My current project is a C# Blazor application using Entity Framework for creating and seeding test data to a database with repeating patterns. After the first 3 or 4 entities, GitHub Copilot got the grip and wrote almost entirely correct classes in just a few times.
That's because it was trained on Blazor train repos. Come on.
There you go. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's all about me.
However, the differences between the entities made it hard to just copy the whole class and change some of the names. Copilot did that the first few times before it embraced pattern and created the unique code I needed. I guess the result was about 90%. It required some fixes. But all in all, I saved so much time on the single project that I guess GitHub Copilot has counted as free for the next few years for me. I'm seriously impressed.
You know where GitHub Copilot really, really works well for me? Is if I have things that repeat, like I've got 5 or 6 lines that, I'm working with data in a grid and there's controls in each cell, right? And it understands that I have what the data and the headers are in the grid, and I make one of these blocks of 6 lines, And then it just starts spitting out the rest of them. And it's like tab, enter, tab, enter, tab, enter, tab, enter.
Nice.
What I don't like about Copilot, and Michelle will probably jump in here and either agree or disagree with me, but what I don't like about Copilot is when it tries to read my mind. And it's almost like, okay, here's a story. I have a customer in the studio who wants me to work on mastering this solo piano CD, right? And whenever I say, you know what I'm going to do? And he goes, what are you going to turn down the volume there? Or are you going to bring up to 5K there? Or are you going to, and it goes on like 4 or 5 times. And then I just look at him like, will you shut up and let me say what I'm going to do?
This would go faster.
I have 2 answers for you there.
Go ahead.
So the first one is GitHub Copilot can't actually read your mind. As much as it feels like it might be able to read your mind, all it's doing is taking context from the file you have open, any other open files. Sounds like you use Visual Studio. So if you have other open tabs, it's taking the context from that. So sometimes
same as my annoying client.
Exactly. So sometimes it does feel like you're like, oh, it is trying to read my mind. You're like, just wait. Like I am good. So a couple of things you do. You can just ignore it and keep typing over it, or you can turn inline suggestions off and mostly use the GitHub Copilot chat feature.
Yeah. What I like is if you make a comment about exactly what you want to do, and then it's really, really good about coming up with a
solution. So like Richard was saying, if you're able to articulate very clearly what you want, you're going to get a response that is much more or much closer to what you actually need, as opposed to it just actually trying to read your mind. Because as much as it feels like all these AIs can read our mind, they really can't. As Richard mentioned before, it's a bunch of software. It can't read your mind. It can only take in the context that you're providing it and its data training set that it has been already trained on.
It's a good suggestion to turn off that inline stuff, especially when it starts spitting out 100-line of code solutions, and you finally your screen fills up with gray blah-de-blah. God help you if you press it.
You need to go.
So it's a great technical term. Gray blah blah. We are going to use that.
You like that? Okay.
That one stays. Hey, Tron, of course, you kicked off some great conversations. Thanks so much for your comment. A copy of Music to Go-By is on its way to you. And if you'd like a copy of Music to Go-By, write a comment on the website at .netrocks.com or on the Facebooks. We publish every show there. And if you comment on the show and I read it, we'll send you a copy of Music to Go-By.
And you can definitely follow us on Twitter if you like. We've been on Twitter for a long time, or X, or whatever the hell they call it these days. But the cool kids are hanging out on Mastodon. I'm at Carl Franklin at TechHead Social.
And I'm Rich Campbell at mastodon.social.
Send us a toot. And of course, if you're looking for more ways to get in touch with us, or me in particular, you can go to carlfranklin.com. Okay. Let's bring in Michelle, that person who was interjecting her brilliance there. Michelle Mishmanners Duke, no longer Mannering. Congratulations on your marriage.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Michelle Duke is a multi-talented personality in the tech and gaming communities. As a developer advocate, she gets to create awesome experiences and engage with the vibrant GitHub developer community. Michelle has spoken at over 250 events on topics like AI, the future of work, communication, teamwork, and has given technical demos. She is a respected leader in the hackathon community, having won, organized, and mentored over 100 hackathons.
That's a lot of hackathons.
Michelle has founded several tech companies, including an AI company, an e-scooter business, and as a result, sits at the forefront of Melbourne's science, tech, esports, and startup scenes. In her spare time, in air quotes, Michelle is a streamer, journalist, and is always working on something exciting. Catch her at an event or streaming on Twitch. Or on .NET Rocks. Welcome back, Michelle.
Hey, I'm here now. Yeah, I actually haven't streamed for a little while. My computer broke recently, so I'm reduced to doing not gaming and streaming at the same time because it can no longer handle that.
Oh.
It's really hard on a machine to run OBS and the game and and all the filters and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm usually running OBS, the game, a chat feature, which is a JavaScript program that is scraping on my chat, my Twitch chat, so I get to keep that, and recording. And it's just it's got to the point where I'm like, how old is my computer now? Okay, it's 5 years old. I definitely need a new one. So I have ordered
why do I smell smoke? Like, what's the benefit?
The benefit is you can keep your tea warm by putting your tea on the CPU, right?
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where like you turn the computer on and it just like loudly beeps at you because there's something wrong and won't turn on. And you're like, okay, now I really need a computer. Or when you're trying to write a presentation for someone and you realize it takes a full 24 hours to render the demos within that presentation that are like a couple minutes long. And then you're like,
that's not right.
I do need it.
Something's broken.
So I got a new computer on its way. Until then,
Yay. So it's ordered.
It's ordered. It's actually one of those like fancy custom build ones too. And I've got all my graphics and branding on it, and it looks really awesome. Like we just came back from our honeymoon from Japan as well. So it's all Japanese themed and stuff. So it's really cool.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Timing matters. You were very Japanese centric when you were giving it design. So tell me it's fancy on the inside as well, right?
100%.
ATX. Yeah. RTX 4990, like something crazy.
It didn't quite go for the 4090. They're a little bit pricey still, but we're up there. We're in like the 4080 series we're in. So
yeah, there you go. That's right up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Your OBS will thank you.
I built a new PC during the pandemic, and it's an i9, and my fan is just about as high as the case is deep. It's just one big, looks like a radiator on a 74 Corvette, you know?
That's literally what they are, though. Like, the radiators. So my one that I had in my old computer was like this big, which is about 30 centimeters big, sitting on top of a tiny little like CPU chip that's like a couple centimeters wide. And you're like, why?
But I've never had a more quiet computer in my life.
Nice.
When I built the old studio, Richard, you remember I put a hole in the wall so I could put the computer behind the wall.
In a different room. Yeah.
In a different room. I don't have to do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got water cooling.
I eventually gave up water cooling.
Yeah, I was saying I got water cooling in the new one. It's
that's how
really
we met.
Cool. And they also did it like with one of those things where you just like, there is an unnecessary amount of turns that you've put in the water cooling, and it's all for looks. Like, it's all show.
Yeah, I know. I got rid of the phase change coolers are good enough. They're quiet enough. Use the big fans. The 140 millimeter, the 14 centimeter ones are quiet. Like you can get a machine right down.
Yeah. I mean,
no reason to go hard.
I have water cooling, but then I also have 10 fans in the computer as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're very quiet.
Nothing succeeds like excess, right?
Hey, that's my line.
Yeah, fully RGB, everything. Like it's good. I'll send you some photos when it's done. It looks pretty cool.
So speaking of good Copilot stuff, are you really going to adopt the what did I say? Gray bloody blah?
The gray bloody blah. I do use GitHub Copilot a lot. I do leave the inline suggestions on because I like it. But I also use the chat feature quite a lot. It's just the things you can do these days are just incredible. Like we heard from the quote that Richard read out that it's saving lots of time. I've literally just read like 4 or 5 articles just this morning on various companies and how their productivity has gone through the roof from using GitHub Copilot. Even you mentioned we got married recently. So like any good developer, when you get married, you turn to GitHub. So I use GitHub Copilot to build the website for our wedding. And instead of taking like 2 full weeks to build it, which probably what it would have taken me, it took like 8 hours. And the fact that it was able to suggest to me like things that I didn't really or probably wouldn't have quite thought of, like it, as I was going through, it realized what I was doing, which was building a website for my wedding. And it started suggesting things like, oh, would you like a countdown timer on your website? How about a light box to show some lovely photos?
It's kind of like the text version of Clippy, isn't it?
Kind of, basically. Like when you think about like, all the memes popping up is about, Clippy and can I help you with that?
Right.
I mean, that is literally what GitHub Copilot is doing with your code. It's like,
I see you're digging a grave. Is that a business grave or a personal grave? No, it's for you, Clippy.
Poor Clippy.
Poor Clippy.
Have we defined really the difference between, because GitHub Copilot chat came later, right? The original Copilot they didn't have the chat feature.
No, so the original Copilot was the inline functionality.
Right.
So the new GitHub Copilot has the two types of functionality. It has that inline line suggestions. So as you're coding, it will show up that grayed out text that you can accept or reject. And then there's the chat feature, which is a little bit more like some of the other AIs that you may have interacted with, where you go in and you like type out either a question or something that you want done, and GitHub Copilot can not just provide you with the code snippet for that, but a small explanation of what it does, and maybe if there's any elements within that code snippet that might need to be changed before it gets inserted into your code. And then you can just insert that straight into your code block. And it's same as the inline code. It is built into the editor you already use. So the GitHub Copilot chat for VS Studio came out at the end of last year, so people have been able to use it since then. We just launched, I believe, let me just double check, GitHub Copilot chat for JetBrains. It was on a wait list. I believe it is now generally available as of this month. So only a couple of weeks ago. So now you can use it in Visual Studio and JetBrains IDEs as well. So you have that GitHub Copilot chat functionality.
So that's Rider.
Yes.
Now I've used ChatGPT to help me with programming things, and I've used GitHub Copilot chat. And the biggest difference that I can see is that GitHub Copilot chat knows more about your application right off the bat. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to paste your entire project to ChatGPT like you do in ChatGPT.
So the two main advantages of GitHub Copilot chat over, say, something like ChatGPT, because a lot of people are saying, well, ChatGPT is good. It does provide me with code suggestions. It's like, well, think about it. ChatGPT has been trained on everything available on the internet, and there's code on the internet. Think Stack Overflow even. So ChatGPT has that context behind it. But GitHub Copilot chat, because it's built into your editor, it has all that context, as I was kind of hinting at before, which is it has the context of it being not just trained on everything on the internet, but having it trained specifically on code. So it's much more, it understands code a lot better and is optimized better for code. So that's the first point, in that its training model is much more geared towards understanding code. And that second thing is it has so much more context. So if you're using Visual Studio, any other things that you've written in the file that you've already got open, that's context for GitHub Copilot. Any other tabs that you have open, so other files that you have open either in one of your JetBrains IDEs or in Visual Studio or VS Code, if you have other files open in tabs, GitHub Copilot can see all of that. And that is all context, which is why when you're writing things, you might be like, how does it know what function I've called something in another file? How does it know what that class is called? It's because it has that context. And the other piece of context it has too is your entire project structure. So while it can't see what's in each individual file, it can see your folder structure. So that means it can do things like, if you're writing a website, say, for example, it can point and have the proper location pointer to your CSS file, for example, because it knows where you've stored it. It knows what it's called and all those kind of things. And because it then has that folder structure, it can then see the extensions of all the files, which means it knows what languages you're trying to write your project in. So it has a lot more context than ChatGPT. The only context ChatGPT has is its training data, which is everything on the internet, and the prompt that you give it. That's it.
Yeah. One of the real problems I had with ChatGPT, and I'll tell you a little story, just happened to me. I have this little tool that I use to manage all of our YouTube videos, and by ours, I mean, the .NET Rocks. Every show is published to YouTube, and the Spreaker publishing system that we use doesn't set the flag that says it's not made for kids when they publish a show to YouTube. And so you have to go in. And the reason why that's important is because there are no comments if it's made for kids. Comments are turned off. So people can't comment unless you set that value. And it has to be set when you're creating the video, when you're uploading the video. The reason I know that, and I found it out, is because I had this conversation with ChatGPT about how to set that after the fact. And, it gave me this solution, and I said, here's my code. Boom. And it said, okay, well, if this is the case, then here are the things that you can check. And it could see my code, but it still told me that I should do things that I was already doing in my code. Right. And it's like, you can see this. You see that I'm doing that. Why are you giving me? And the reason is because it didn't have an answer. The answer was, and it didn't know the answer, that it's a read-only value. You can only set it when you upload a video in the API. You can only set that flag. It's available and you can try to set it, but it didn't know that.
Yeah. So ChatGPT is smart, but doesn't know everything, right?
Doesn't.
Yeah.
And there was a really, really great keynote at one of the NDCs recently on the different types of ways that ChatGPT and other AIs can get things wrong. So one of them is it just doesn't have the facts. So it makes up something. Or the other thing is it doesn't have enough information. And while it's providing you with information that is what they call grounded, so it might be true for something else, but it's not actually true for the context you're talking about.
Or it might have already been true in the past, but not anymore.
Yeah, or it's true for something else. So, for example, when I asked ChatGPT to write a bio about me, it gets some things right, and then it says that I have a PhD in chemistry, which is incorrect.
I didn't know you were so clever.
I know, right? Which is, I don't have a PhD. I didn't do chemistry. I don't have a PhD. But that information is grounded because there's another Michelle Mannering out there who lives in New York who potentially has a PhD, right? So the information is grounded. So it has a base in fact, but it is not factually correct for me. And ChatGPT can't distinguish between what we're trying to ask about. The other example she gave was, write me or give me some information about this airline. We're going to use Duke Airlines as an example, tell me about Duke Airlines. And ChatGPT started going on how it was, an amazing airline. It was always on time, top customer satisfaction. It flew lots of routes around the world and had a fantastic
and it doesn't exist.
And you're like, wow, this sounds really good. Doesn't exist, right? Yeah. So that's the whole AI hallucination thing where it just
also the thing is when it doesn't know the answer, it will just say, well, I really have no idea. It should work. Right?
Well, sometimes it does. Sometimes it's I can't help you any further. And then other times
but it shouldn't. It doesn't say that.
Sometimes it just makes stuff up. Yeah.
It just makes stuff up or it says, well, clearly there's something wrong and you should check all these things that you're already doing. But, a human would figure out a way to go look for the answer.
I was going to say to you, what I think is interesting is that, and this is again a personal opinion, but what I think is interesting is ChatGPT does mimic humans because you're saying a human will go and look up the information or find it out. Not necessarily. Most people I know, if they don't know the answer, they'll make it up on the spot. And because they are credible or learned, people believe them. So they're off, providing incorrect information as well.
Yeah,
Whereas I'm definitely one of those people. I'm like, look, if I don't know the answer, I will go and find out for you because I usually know where to get it from.
It's the best of being human and the worst of being human at the same time.
And that's what I think you're getting with ChatGPT, right? It's being trained on everything available on the internet. Not everything on the internet is good. Newsflash. So I think you're going to get those times where it just gives you.
I would just like to see, at one point, when it doesn't know the answer, say, well, aliens must have something to do with this, right? Just start spouting conspiracy theories.
At least be prompted that way, that this is how I want you to respond when you can't answer.
I suppose so, yeah. You
could, making software do even dumber things. At the same time, I've been talking to some PMs and it's not small productivity improvements. It's 30%, more code in less time, higher quality, less remediation. These are big numbers.
Yeah. I've got, some stats here actually that I just pulled up from a report. I won't tell you exactly which company, but they, said that their developers reported 90% increase in writing better code, which I just think is insane.
It's kind of a subjective statement, but okay.
It is a little bit, but 50% more builds, which is not always
measurable.
Yeah, which is measurable.
Yeah.
84% increase in successful builds. which I think is really cool.
That's a pretty big number. Yeah.
It's a pretty big number. Again, another bit more like subjective one, like 90% of them feeling like more satisfied and fulfilled in their jobs.
Well, and that's the interesting part about this, right? Is that here's this tool arguably doing some of your work for you, but you love it.
You love it. And what I think is really good, and this is something that came out from some of the original research that we did when GitHub Copilot was first introduced, and this was before all the chat stuff too, was that developers reported that yes, GitHub Copilot was writing a lot of code for them and, doing that, but they actually had to think less when writing code, which I was like, that's not a bad thing. But they follow up that statement with, I have to think less, but when I do have to think, it's about the fun stuff that sets off that spark that makes coding fun again. And I think that's what I think is really great about a lot of these AIs, is it takes away those blockers. We often get writer's block or coder's block. So it removes those blockers. So we're not sitting there going, oh, where do I start again?
Right.
So it removes that side of it. It writes a lot of that repetitive, mundane code for you so that you're actually able to sit there as a developer and do the thing that you were trained best to do, which is solve the problem. Like, what is the best way to do something? Like, if I give a problem or a task or project to 50 developers, I'll probably get 50. Some of them might be similar, but there's going to be different ways of writing things. We all know as developers, there's multiple ways of doing something. And that's what, same with GitHub Copilot as well. It'll often give you multiple suggestions, or if you rephrase a question, you'll get a different response. So I think the best thing about being a developer is actually looking at what we're doing and going, what is the best way to actually solve this? And what is the best way
take it on
to take this on? I think what's really exciting, this is another personal opinion.
We got to take a break, but we'll be right back after these very important messages. And we're back. It's .NET Rocks. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Richard Campbell.
Hey.
And that is Michelle Mishmanners-Duke.
Hey.
And we're talking about GitHub Copilot and AI and all those cool things. And you were just saying that you think it's really great for removing those blocks, those things that you were working on that you may have said, you know what, I'm going to sleep on it or whatever. Now you can get there quicker. And I was just going to add that it's also good for you to take inventory of, write down the top 10 things that you haven't learned because you were afraid to.
Too busy.
Or you thought it was over your head. You could never figure that out, whatever. Take that list, go through it one by one with Copilot or, your favorite AI, and you'd be surprised at how fast you learn these things.
Yeah. And so, what I was going to blow everyone's mind was my personal opinion. So what I think a lot of these AIs and things are going to do, like if we look back through history, we've seen where a lot of new technologies have come in and people have been really upset or skeptical. And one I like to look at is writing. So when writing was first widely invented and adopted, people got really worried that we're all going to become dumb because we no longer needed to remember the things we need to remember. So if I needed to know something back then.
I was there.
You were there?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I'm old.
If I needed to know something, I had to remember it. I could just write it down. I mean, even today, I don't have to remember. I mean, I still remember because I've just got stupid photographic memory, but I don't have to remember.
You're absolutely right about that.
I don't have to remember my husband's phone number, my family's phone number, my work phone number. I mean, I remember all of them because, again, photographic memory, but we don't have to. We've got a phone that does that for us.
We were talking to Richard. We were talking to Grant Barrett from Away with Words, and he mentioned that in Aristotle's time, when people were writing, handwriting, these guys were against it because they thought, well, if that's cheating. We write it down. We can refer to it later. We should keep everything in our mind.
Exactly. But what actually happened instead of everyone becoming dumb is there was this massive wave of innovation and invention because all of a sudden people's minds were freed up from having to remember stuff that they could actually think creatively. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Think on bigger problems at a higher level.
Exactly. So I actually think that's what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years is we're actually going to solve some of the world's biggest problems because all of a sudden people's time is freed up. And it's the fun stuff. We don't have to sit there, doing a lot of that mundane, repetitive stuff. We can do what those original developers were saying when we did the research study to GitHub Copilot, which is it sets off this spark, which makes things fun again, right? So we can now spend more time actually, thinking about how to solve these problems. I think we're going to get this big wave of just cool stuff happening. Again, this is all personal opinion, but I think we're going to see a lot more of this.
We've already had a wave, and Richard, I'd be interested in what you have to say about this, but we've already had a big wave of people using it for nefarious purposes before, and it's a game of cat and mouse and catch up with the authorities in the security business.
But not in GitHub Copilot.
No. I'm just talking AI in general.
Yeah. But, I was thinking more in terms of the productivity boost we got when we got the .NET framework.
Oh, yeah.
And you already had an encryption library.
Right.
And you already had sockets. And, you didn't have to write all that stuff.
And all the C++ programmers were like, I don't want that.
It's so lazy. Yeah.
Real programmers allocate and deallocate their memory manually. Come on.
I just think it's a really exciting time. I know a lot of people do get worried about the whole, what if it takes my jobs and what if it does this? And, again, personal opinion, there are going to be some jobs that get lost. That's just the reality of every industrial revolution we've had over the last, since the dawn of time. But I think with this one, what's going to be really interesting is the majority of people aren't going to lose their jobs to AI. They're going to lose their job to another human who's using AI. So the people who can understand how these things work, so understand AI, understand the capabilities of AI, but more importantly, understand the limitations of AI
and use it.
Therefore, where they can add value as a human, they're the people who are going to have jobs.
It's exactly my position. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Again, it's all personal opinion.
I may play the role of a Luddite for comedic effect, but I'm absolutely with you on that. That, this is not something to be feared. You have to jump on the horse and ride it.
So if anyone is listening of okay, that sounds good. What do I do? Actually go and start using AI. If you're not using AI, you need to start using it so you really understand what it can actually do and then what it can't do.
And it's hit me that developers are uniquely suited for these kinds of tools.
Oh, 100%.
There's a reason GitHub Copilot took off first.
Yes.
Because we get it. It's just another kind of coding to describe a task to the tool. But you still have to evaluate. We're used to criticizing other people's code and our own. And the compiler always gets a say.
And you're right. A lot of people just think, well, is it going to be this age where GitHub Copilot just writes code and ships it off? It's no, that's really stupid. No one would do that. No one would, give a project to an intern and ship it off before checking it, right? It's kind of the same thing with GitHub Copilot. In a way, we kind of got to treat it a little bit like an intern in that sense that, we as developers are responsible for the code we ship at the end of the day, regardless of how much of it was written by an AI, which means as developers, we have to be responsible for, checking the code, checking the security of it, doing all those kind of normal things that we would do before.
And I like your optimism, Michelle, because I'm sure people are going to do that. They're just going to get into trouble. And, back in the early days of ChatGPT, where the lawyer asked for citations from ChatGPT and got fictional ones, and
case.
The software wasn't in trouble; the lawyer was. The court doesn't care.
There was a article recently about someone who used ChatGPT, and they didn't even bother changing it was hi, insert name here. They didn't even bother changing any of that stuff. And you're why? What is wrong?
How lazy are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I have to bring up something here. My friend and AppPhoenix colleague, Brian, sent me this thing called Suno app.suno.ai. And it's apparently this thing that can generate music. And it sounds like anything that you could hear in a genre-specific radio station, right? And complete with singing and lyrics and everything. And he thought this was the coolest thing. And he said, so what? I let it go for about a week. He goes, what? No comment? And I'm like, okay, from a technology perspective, it's pretty impressive. But from a music perspective, it's soulless and soul draining and just crushing.
Yeah.
Because what it does is, if somebody actually puts out a hit record, that's completely generated by AI, it takes away all the integrity of real artists that are doing real things. And it, you know, for the musicians out there, get busy. You got to tour.
Yeah. I mean,
you got to let people know that you're doing it for real.
It's the same, right? You know, I mentioned in my bio, I'm a journalist, right? So naturally, a lot of people asking me, you know, are we using ChatGPT? And it's like, well, we're not. We know a lot of publications who are using ChatGPT. We've basically been told, like, in our sphere that, like, if you use ChatGPT, you're going to get fired because you're right. Like, it's a lot of it is generic. It's soulless. It's not like, I mean, they said, like, you know, sure, go use it to, like, get some like a base of something where to start, but actually write something yourself, because otherwise it is still plagiarism, right? Whether you're plagiarizing something that hasn't been written. But that's why I think a lot of, you know, our news site, so I write for Upcomer. It's a gaming and like esports kind of publication. So we kind of moved away a lot from the generic news stuff. And so we write a lot of, you know, guides and interview type pieces, because it's much more, it's different content, but it also is like that more heartfelt and thought-provoking stuff. And and like writing a guide,
AI proof,
exactly.
Right?
And so writing a guide, like I write a guide, and this is why I love writing my technology guides too, which you can read a lot of them on Dev too, or like on Dev. Is I write a guide as I'm doing it. So and like I'm got no knowledge of what I would have had to do in the first place. That's why I love writing beginner content as well. So, and AI can't do that. They can't necessarily put themselves, I mean, you could tell it to go, hey, write this on the perspective of someone who's never done this, but it's really hard for an AI to do that because it doesn't quite understand that human content. It's like when you watch a video or see some artwork. I mean, there's so much AI generated artwork out there, and I can probably bet that majority of people, regardless of whether they're working in technology or not, can pick up AI content. Like just by looking at
I
it.
have been able to.
Right?
I've been able to pick up DALL-E generated content because it has a look about it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's
have you noticed this?
Yeah. There's a specific look. Like I'm looking at this stuff now, going, that's a really cool picture of like a Pikachu, but I know that's been AI generated. And then you look into it has been, and everyone's like, how do you know? And you're like, you just know. Like,
you just know.
You just have this, like, there's this look and a feeling about it where you just like, it's been AI generated.
However, the thing is that we keep complaining about this stuff not being as good as humans, and then it keeps raising the bar. And, you know, 20 years from now, who knows? Right?
Exactly right.
Eventually, it's going to catch up with our complaints.
And I am one of those people, I fall in two categories. Again, more personal preference here and personal opinion. I love the AI generated stuff because I think it's really good for people who don't necessarily have that creative streak and want to have something different in, like, I'm thinking here too, like I use a lot of it for my presentations, right? Because I want something that is a little bit unique, a little bit different, and I can't find exactly what I'm looking for. So being able to use some sort of AI generated thing to create pretty much what I want is really good. Now, a lot of people say to me, oh, but that's taking work away from artists. I'm like, well, on the flip side, let's look at how much work I have on my computer and within my office that is created by an actual artist that I commission work for. Like, I do a lot of that kind of stuff because those are the kind of, like, I have stickers, I have all my Twitch branding, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to go and commission an artist for every single PowerPoint slide that I want done. Right. Like, that's really costly, and it's actually not a good use of the artist's time either. Like, I've got an artist, she is actually doing a PowerPoint slide for me at the moment, but it's a reusable slide. Like, I'll be using it for every presentation.
Yeah, you're not taking work away. It's work that wouldn't be otherwise be done.
It's the work that wouldn't be done because she's telling me, she's like, I love doing this stuff, but it takes a long time. Like, I think she's been working on it for about 3 months now, like on a slide. Wow. Like, it's, you know, like if we all wanted to go and commission it, like there'd be just do way too much work. I just think it's a bit insane. So I think having, you know, that good balance of like being able to create things that are quick and easy that we wouldn't have gotten artists to do, and then still having artists for the really high quality, good work that we always want to do.
I've seen folks who've been using DALL-E to generate the rough of what they want and then taking that to the artist saying, I want this, but different. in this style, looking that way.
It's good for a sketch. All right. So, Michelle, I have a hypothetical situation for you. Let's say you have a little girl and, she's 5 or 6 years old, about the time that you might want her to start taking piano lessons. And learning an instrument is a really good thing for a child because, it can be a comfortable comfort in times of struggle. It expands your horizons. Like, it's just good for people to learn an instrument, whether you plan on being a performer or not. And then the kid is, hip with the tech and the YouTube and AI, and comes to you and says, "But Mom, I don't need to learn piano. I have a program that does that."
Okay, so I got 2 responses for you there. First one is I have 4 nieces, this is very much a hot topic of conversation amongst my siblings. And second thing, I actually had someone come to me when I was at State of Open Con, which was less than a month ago. Young girl, she's in year 10 or 11, and she literally said to me, why should I study computer science and software engineering? I don't want to be a developer because AIs are going to do everything for us. Like, literally said that. So this isn't even a hypothetical anymore. This is young kids in high school saying, I don't want to study software engineering because an AI is going to do it all for me. And my response, yeah, exactly. And so my response to her was very similar to what we're already saying on this podcast, is that like AI can't do everything. Like, and she was like, "Oh, but it is just growing exponentially." I'm like, "Yeah, but if you have done exponential log, it does go like this and plateaus out, right? We're still in the, the upward phase." But I think there's going to, again, personal opinion, I think we're going to hit a point where we can't go any further. Because
we're basically there.
We're basically there, but whether it's because of limitations,
there is another order of magnitude of data to be collected off the internet.
Exactly. So it's like whether we're going to be limited by literal physical data points, the speed of electricity, whatever it's going to be, there's going to be a limit point, right?
What I think is that there will be that limit, but the limit that I think is more important is the public's rejection of AI. And because it's going to produce so many charlatans and so much phony stuff that people are going to they're going to yearn for human to human communication, contact, sharing of arts and culture again.
It's funny. They said the same thing about the telephone. That it was going to limit human communication.
I think we're not there, Richard. I'm saying like in the future, I think we're going to have a situation where there'll be a rejection of artificial anything.
I think to a certain degree, but my response to this girl was very similar to what we're saying here. Like, it can't do everything. You as the developer are still in charge. Like, we still need to direct and all those kind of things. So after a while, she was like, I actually want to study computer science now. So she got really excited about the prospect of being able to then use AI as opposed to being wary of it. And to your point about the public reject you, I don't necessarily think it's going to be like a public rejection overall of AI because there's so many people in tech that are just like, "Oh my gosh, this stuff's so cool." But what I think we're going to get, again, more personal opinion, is we're going to have the IKEA model, which is there's going to be a lot of stuff out there that's built by AI and it's all cool. And you can tell it's been built by AI, but then there's going to be certain pieces where you're going to go, that was built by a human. And therefore, it is bespoke, it is custom, it is more expensive. Yeah. So same with the IKEA furniture thing is why I use IKEA. So many people have IKEA furniture in their house, right? It does the job.
What if there are no more furniture makers because they all think, well, why should I learn how to make furniture if I can just buy it at IKEA? And then I think because there'll be a lack of those people, that they will be the ones that are left being able to do that will be sought out. So I'm thinking like the Renaissance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of happened because of the printing press and all of that. I think there may be another Renaissance, but in this situation, not a rejection of technology, but just a recognition of human values.
Yeah, basically. And so like you might have lots of IKEA furniture in your house, but there might be one or two pieces that aren't IKEA and you spend a lot of money on. Now, as people, we usually can't, generally, and especially the cost of living, we can't afford to have every piece in our home built by, a beautiful furniture maker. In the same way, we can't have every piece of artwork, in our house because it's too expensive. But there will be those, really bespoke pieces. And I think you've hinted on something really important is that those people who really understand that in their craft will get better at it so that it has something different that AI doesn't. And I use that example because my brother is a photographer and a videographer, and he loves the AI stuff. He was like, it makes my job a lot, a lot of the things automated a lot easier. He's like, but it's also made me a better photographer and a better videographer because now I'm learning techniques and ways of shooting that is completely different that AI cannot do. And so I think, the smart people and the people who, have that more optimistic viewpoint are going to look at their craft and say, how do I add a bespoke human element that people are going to covet and that people are going to be willing to pay the extra money for?
And you can only see the horizon if you get on the horse and ride.
That's exactly right. And I think it doesn't really matter, I think, what kind of profession you're in. I think that's going to be across the board, whether you're a developer, writing, building a website, whether you're an artist, creating artwork, whether again you're even physical things like furniture and stuff like that. I mean, that's we're already seeing that because there's robots that can manufacture furniture like at ridiculous speeds. But I still want a nice bespoke custom built
you want
something
a story.
or other. Pardon?
Yeah, AI has no story. Oh, I generated this on AI. Okay, but what's the story behind it?
Yeah, and like
the story is the prompt you wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not enough.
A lot of things that like special occasions and things like that, people want that human touch. Weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, those kind of things are where people are going to want that extra quality and that extra human touch. And AI
and knowing
that
it's been human touched. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good. I agree. Oh my God. What else should we talk about, Richard?
I don't know. I think there was some Copilot in here somewhere.
There was some Copilot in there somewhere. I'm sorry we got off on that tangent.
I think it's good because I think it does prompt a broader discussion around everything. I go into the office
and we
now,
need to keep that discussion going.
Yeah, and I go into the startup office now and people come up to me and go, hey, you're into this AI stuff. What do you think about this, this, and this? Nothing to do with, GitHub Copilot or anything, but because it's just so ingrained in every conversation now, I just think it's, it's touching everyone. That is why we're getting this real just uproar in society about like everything happening because it's everywhere. You cannot turn away and you can't get away from it essentially unless you want to go live on a deserted island by yourself.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of gardeners who are too immersed in it right now. I think we are immersed in it in the industry. I do think it's just another set of tools. The biggest problem that it has is the name. We've spent 60 years making crazy movies where the AI tries to kill everybody.
Yes.
So, gee, I wonder why people are jumpy about this name.
Well, it was like when I did my PubConf talk last year, I was like, didn't we learn anything from like Terminator 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6? Like, you're right. Like
Terminator 9.
But
the technology in those movies has nothing to do with the technology we're making here except for the name.
Well said, Richard.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's interesting is that's why I love looking at science fiction movies is because it shows what people's minds were actually thinking would be potentially capable in, 20 or 30 years time. And I think like some of the capability, like people always come to me and say, oh, how far are we away from getting like Iron Man's, Jarvis? I'm like, already there. Like, that kind of capability is already available. While it might not be commercially available in the sense that you and I can't just go out and buy our own Jarvis, a lot of those functionalities are already there. And, OpenAI has already put ChatGPT, I think it was 5, they put into a humanoid robot. I don't know if you saw the new NVIDIA the NVIDIA big conference thing, but, robots, like, they're just like, we created humanoid robots and, stuffed them with all the, stuff from the internet. And you're like, okay, I can't see this going wrong at all.
Yeah. All right. So ride the horse, get GitHub Copilot, get GitHub Copilot Chat. Use it. It's good. And, and find your way in the, in the wave of the future. Find your spot on that wave and ride it.
Yeah. That's
it. And stop arguing with scenes from movies because those aren't real.
So true.
Well, And anthropomorphizing software is never good.
No, it's not. You're right, Richard. But it is easy, right? Just like
Yeah.
it's easy for us to. Oh, I won't get into the religious
and my
discussion, but
concern
it's
is that
easy for us to anthropomorphize everything that is a force that we don't understand.
Humans prefer to anthropomorphize most of the time. My concern is we're supposed to be the professionals, and the regular mortals are being confused by this.
The regular mortals,
The mere mortals.
They ask you those questions.
The muggles. Do the muggles come up to you and ask questions, Richard?
Muggles. That's a good one, because they don't play quad ball.
Yeah. Hey, look, we're
the being a wizard?
Well, we're the wizards. We're having a lot of fun, and it's useful for us to be responsible.
Absolutely,
and,
Richard.
Help these ordinary people who are freaked out because they've watched too many movies.
Yeah.
And now apparently we're playing with the same thing, which we know we're not.
We're not.
But they don't know.
Yeah. And on that note, Michelle, where are you going to be next, or what's in your inbox?
Oh, so many things coming up. It's really exciting. We have our kind of like our GitHub Roadshow happening at the moment. So GitHub Galaxy is really exciting, a bit more geared towards enterprise. So if you just Google GitHub Galaxy, but it's galaxy.github.com. And there's some really exciting stuff that we're doing all around the world. We've got galaxies happening all over APAC, all over the Americas, and all over Europe. So I'll be doing the Melbourne one, which is happening in May. I'll be in the Hong Kong one, which is in April. And I'll be at the Singapore and Thailand ones that are also happening towards the end of May.
Wow.
Then there's a couple of NDCs coming up soon, which is really exciting.
Yep. We'll be there.
Serverless days. I'm doing serverless days in Sydney and Auckland for those people over down under with me. So you can come and see me there. And I think they're kind of the main ones that are coming up. And then I'll be at NDC Oslo again, which will be really exciting.
Right. We'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing
the NDCs. Yeah. Well, Michelle, thank you. This has been a great conversation. I know we didn't stick to GitHub Copilot, but I think our listeners like that about this show. We tangentize, don't we?
Yes.
Is that a word? Okay.
Sometimes we go places.
Tangentize. All right. Michelle, thanks a lot. And for you, dear listener, we'll see you next time on .NET Rocks.
.NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net and produced by Plop Studios, a full-service audio, video, and post-production facility located physically in New London, Connecticut, and of course in the cloud. Online at pwop.com. Visit our website at dotnetrocks.com for RSS feeds, downloads, mobile apps, comments, and access to the full archives going back to show number 1, recorded in September 2002. And make sure you check out our sponsors. They keep us in business. Now go write some code. See you next time.